Long story short, if you're trans, you have to live. You have to. And if you are alive right now watching, I am so proud of you. I am so proud of you. All my trans people at university, in high school, working a job that they like or don't like, rotting at home, I love you. And you deserve to exist, and I'm proud of you for existing. Here's the thing about being trans. It is the most natural thing, but because it opposes so many systems of oppression, we are the first to be targeted by those same systems of oppression. And that's the history they don't teach you. Like, I just recently learned that the Nazis, I learned about Germany pre-Nazis. It was very queer-friendly, very trans-friendly. And trans people were the first to be targeted when the Nazis came to power. And so you think about that, right? And that is important knowledge that they're not going to teach you, or as a trans person or as a cis person or as someone in between. They're not going to teach you that. And so that makes me happy. That's something I like to think about when I do not feel good about being trans, or I feel like, oh my god, there is so much that wants to oppress me. That's what I like to think about, the fact that we are always the first to be targeted about things that have nothing to do. Like, you think about the bathroom debate. That has nothing to do with, the actual shit that's going on in the world, but it's a really clever tactic to distract people from what's actually happening by getting them to be concerned about something that doesn't really matter, like trans people in bathrooms. But anyways, this episode video is about visibility, specifically about trans visibility. And last year in September, October, November, fall of last year, I decided I didn't want to be stealth anymore. And that was a big decision for me to make, because as somebody who spent 7 years living as a man, as a cis person, as a perceived cis person, but really I was wounded and trans inside. But raised as a teenage guy, perceived as one, I inherited a lot of very toxic masculine perspectives about dating, about women, about misogyny and femininity, and I internalized a lot of those things, and that just didn't make me feel good. And so I decided maybe I don't want to be stealth anymore, or at least I just don't want to not tell people. It's like, this is how my friend described it to me. Basically, we were talking, and he was like, okay, it makes sense. You were basically perceived as I was socially perceived as at the top of the food chain because I'm a white man. Sometimes I appear straight, most of the time I appear cis, and I just am not, and I'm not, and so I couldn't really connect with people because I was not being honest about who I was, and that's not a life that feels authentic and good to me. And it's also not a very revolutionary life to be hiding the person that I am, especially because I can be out and safe. And so I think a part of me feels that for my own sake, I have to be, so that I can liberate myself and help others who do not feel safe or are not safe, and who can vicariously live through me and feel hope that a life is possible, because, or a happy trans life is possible. Because as someone who's lived 7 years as a man, transition has become a very trivial subject because I don't think about it. I pass, I do everything gender-wise that I would like to do. Well, I would like to express myself a lot more femininely and not feel bad about it, but that's another video. But transitioning is not something I think about. But recently I entered into a trans space where some trans guys are pre-medical transition. Others had surgery, and I didn't, and probably won't. I'm referring to top surgery. There's trans guys that want to get bottom surgery. I don't, at least not right now. And so, like, there are aspects of transition that are so different for everybody. I want to offer my voice as consolation, as like a fellow queer person who feels really exhausted and exasperated at the state of queerness and how our identities are weaponized to oppress everyone. But back to the subject at hand. I wrote um, an article ab- um, about my experience as a bisexual trans guy. And that was very powerful for me because it's what I shared with my Instagram following. It's how I told a lot of the people in my close circles that I was trans, people who were my friends that I knew for like a year and didn't tell that I was trans. And I was like, like, I wonder why why I don't feel close to these people. Oh, because I wasn't being honest, right? Let me read this to you, and I'll put it up on the screen so that you can follow along. But basically, by Trans Alliance, by myself. I mean, written by me. It took me a while to feel comfortable talking about my experience as a bisexual trans man. I write for the brave, fierce, and unapologetic individuals. Those who know that a world in which they hide who they are is not a world they want to live in. In a world of polarizing perspectives, bisexual and trans people often face the brunt of LGBTQ discrimination and erasure. Situated between both these experiences, I have certainly felt that if I wanted to fit in anywhere, I had to keep secrets. Throughout high school and first year, being trans was my biggest secret. Recently, I realized how much that hurt. All I wanted was to express my sexual nature wholeheartedly, but instead I would bite my tongue. I would tell myself that I couldn't do what the cisgender people could do. Ironically enough, I would see other trans people expressing themselves unapologetically, surrounded by queer friends and community. It all seemed relatively safe and fun for them. In my mind, it never seemed fair, so I would turn away from trans and cis people alike. These experiences impressed upon me that perhaps I was creating my own suffering. After a while, my urgency for self-love overpowered my strong feelings of internalized transphobia and biphobia. While I won't pretend that being bi and trans isn't sometimes difficult, I believe that a safe community allows us to transcend the limits of society and find a more open way of being. I propose that bisexual and transgender people make more art together and remember the historical significance of our alliance. In the late 20th century, when the transgender political movement was gaining headway, bisexual people were the first to support the trans community. I'm not sure if it is because both these communities have felt othered in LGBTQ+ spaces, or if there are other secret links. Studies have shown that the most common sexuality for transgender people to have is bisexual. I also know that many bisexual people are also really attracted to the gender ambiguity of trans and non-binary people. Aside from these similarities, bi and trans people have also made a lot of culturally progressive art together. In the 90s, there was a bi-trans magazine called Anything That Moves. It's an inside joke about bisexuals, that they will fuck anything that moves. I read that already. I love it when queer people reclaim their experiences with humor and joy. I can't wait to discover what is waiting on the other side of radical self-acceptance. So this article is how I came out as trans to my entire Instagram following. And that was powerful because it made me realize how many people did not care that I was trans or not. Like, they just looked at the story and did not reply, like, whatever. It made me realize that, like, there were so many ways in which I was simply denying myself my own self-expression for the sake of what other people would think. And to share something like this and like not get any response from like people who I thought cared about me was huge. So huge. I realized that like maybe right now in this period of time, being close friends with a whole bunch of cis people is not in my best interest. Maybe it's in my best interest to nurture a lot of trans friendships, trans relationships. And that's what I've been doing. I also recently learned what a QPR is, which is a queer platonic relationship. For those who don't know, a queer platonic relationship is like basically when you have like a queer person that you're both queer, you have a friend who you're really good friends with, to say that you're best friends simply just wouldn't do the relationship justice. But it's like a platonic, really close relationship that happens to be queer. Ta-da! Queer platonic relationship. So I recently learned what that was, and I feel super cultured now. And I feel like I'm contributing positively. Right, back to the article, like, I felt, when writing this, I felt so scared sharing it. When I was writing it, I was like, wow, I'm really doing this. Like, I'm really sharing who I am. But I realized, like I can't just hide from myself and my community. Like, I think a part of me was really nervous to appear trans because one of the biggest traumas of my life was being misgendered on a daily basis, right? As a trans person, I think a lot of people can relate to that. I would never want to put myself in a position where I'm so gender ambiguous that people misgender me. And first of all, I should not care what other people think, but I do. And it's important to me that my gender is perceived the way I would like it to be perceived, which is as a guy or as a male. So yeah, that's my short little spiel about if you're trans, you have to live. If you're trans, life is going to be a little more challenging because not only are you like experiencing life in a capitalistic, system, you're also experiencing life as an individual who has like a split consciousness about reality, like there is subconscious stuff going on where you're like trying to fit in, or we're like taught that like cisgenderness, cissexuality is the epitome and the standard of beauty, right? And that's not the case. Well, it is, I guess, the pushed standard of beauty, but everybody has their preferences, and that includes trans people. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say in this video. I also don't want to make this too long because I want to give you guys a chance to like watch this video and not be intimidated by its length. Thank you so much for watching. I recently gained 10 subscribers since my last video, so I'm really appreciative. Thank you for the people who comment or have commented. I have been kind of bad at responding, so I apologize for that in advance, and apologize to the people who have commented, but I'm getting to respond to you. Yes. Muchas gracias. Спасибо большое. I hope everyone has a great day, or night, wherever you are in the world. Peace out.